welcome today to a 30-minute yoga, all levels yoga class. We will be doing kind of a flow with our breath when it feels good, and then we will take times to slow down and actually pause for a moment and really experience certain poses and take time and have patience with that pose. So if you are newer to yoga today, I have to say really quick, welcome, and good for you for showing up to try yoga. And those of you who have been practicing for a while, amazing job as well. During these times where we may be more limited on the yoga practices that we are given, I'm so proud of people for showing up for themselves and taking and doing yoga. Let's take our first kind of meditative position in a child's pose. So I want you to find hands and knees on your mat or on your blanket or on your towel. Widen your knees out just to the width of the mat, and then, wider than the hips, and then push your hips back. Your arms can go in front of you, and your eyes can look down at the ground. If you can, and it feels okay, you can bring your forehead to the mat. Or if you have a pillow or something you can fold or put underneath your forehead to give yourself some height, that can be more comfortable as well. And just take a moment to stay here. Stay in your child's pose and start to build awareness of your breath. As you're inhaling and exhaling in that child's pose, do you feel your breath in the back of your rib cage? Do you feel your breath in the sides of your rib cage? And if your belly is close to your thighs in this pose, do you feel your breath pushing into the tops of your legs? And in yoga, we want to focus on breathing in and out through the nose, encouraging length on the inhale and on the exhale. Try to close your eyes, release tension in the shoulders, the jaw, between the eyes, and start to walk your hands over to one side of your mat, pushing your hips deeper towards your heels. Walking your hands to the other side of your mat, pressing the hips back, keeping the breath long and expansive. Bring your hands back to the center, push your hips forward, and find what we call a quadruped position. So hands are underneath the shoulders, knees are underneath the hips, and if your wrists bother you here for whatever reason, feel free to make fists with the hands. Exhale to round through the spine, pull the belly in for your cat pose. Inhale, drop the belly, look forward. Cat-cow with that spine. Follow that breath to encourage the core or the deeper abdominal muscles to engage at the right time. Inhale. And exhale. 2 more times. You can push your hips forward slightly on that cow. Exhale to round. Inhale 1 more time. And exhale. Let's take our right hand up overhead. Nice big reach toward the ceiling. Thread that right hand through the left shoulder. Widen out the knees 1 more time to find a child's pose with a twist. So the temple or the side of your head can come to the mat, or you can keep your forehead on the mat while that left arm reaches out in front of you. Your hips can be high or low, whatever feels most comfortable. It's more about twisting that spine. Inhale, pull the hand out from underneath you, and let's switch hands. So that right hand floats back down to the mat, left arm reaches up toward the ceiling. Exhale to float the left hand underneath. Palm is up toward the ceiling with that left hand. We can be on the temple of the side of our forehead or forehead on the mat. Slide the left hand out from underneath your shoulder, reach the arm up, and plant the hand back down. Keeping your left hand planted on the mat, start to bring that left knee underneath you, finding a modified side plank, Vashistasana. We're going to take the right leg out to the side, staying on that left knee, open up the right hand toward the ceiling. So we can even pivot that left knee even further underneath us so we have more support. Draw the right leg back so you're in more of one long line with the body. And let's just bring that right arm overhead and then pull it back. Getting a nice side bend through the body, engaging the side of the body, the core. And then take that top arm, reach it behind you, and draw a circle on the ceiling, opening up through the chest and the shoulder. Taking your time on those circles, noticing the change in your core and that balance as that arm changes direction. Continue to breathe. Slow and controlled. Plant that right hand down to the ground. Right knee comes underneath the body as you reach the left leg behind you. Plant the right hand underneath the shoulder. Open up the chest, finding that modified Vashistasana, that modified side plank. Start with just reaching that arm overhead and then drawing it back. Reaching overhead and drawing it back. Start to float the arm behind you slightly and reach around for a circular motion on that shoulder. Take your time and change direction. Last circle here. Bring the hand back to the mat, pressing your hands into the floor. It's the last pose in this quadruped position. Take your right foot back and press through your heel. Get a nice stretch in the Achilles tendon, length through the hamstring. Pulling the belly away from the floor, and you can kind of move through this. So if those calves are extra tight today, take your time opening them up before we make our way into our first downward facing dog. Never forcing the stretch on our body, letting the body release as we encourage the stretch to happen. And then take that knee back down. Let's take it to the other side. Remember those wrists. If they're bothering you, you can go into those fists. Left foot, left toes gripping into the floor as we press the heel back, getting a stretch in the hamstring, a little bit maybe in the glutes, but mostly in the calf muscle, the Achilles tendon. One more stretch on that left leg. Plant the hands, walk them forward to the front of your mat a little bit, and then reach the right leg back so we're in a nice plank. Start to push your hips up and back to your first downward facing dog, and take a second here to pedal out the dog. So we kind of drop one heel at a time toward the mat. The hips can kind of sway side to side. Keep that breathing coming. Inhaling and exhaling. Relax the head and neck. Try to maybe rock the head side to side. Bend the knees, look forward at the top of your mat, and start to walk toward the top of your mat. Belly hangs strong over the front of the legs, and just stay here in a ragdoll position. Let the arms hang and dangle, swaying side to side, putting more weight into the middle of the feet. Breathing here, releasing here, maintaining that patience with your mind and your body. We're going to take a couple of lengthened half lifts. So hands are going to brush onto the shins, look forward, lengthen through the spine, flatten the back, pull the belly in. Exhale to forward fold 2 more times. Inhale, press in the shins, halfway lift. Pull the shoulders back. And exhale down. Think about length through the crown of your head toward the top of your mat. And exhale to lower back down. Start to slowly roll up through the spine, 1 vertebra at a time. Inhale to reach the arms up toward the ceiling. Hands come together. Let's open up the chest. So we're in our mountain pose. Open up the chest, close your eyes for a moment, spread your toes wide, and let's take a moment in mountain, a mountain moment. Maybe closing your eyes, lengthening through the spine, noticing where you put your weight distribution on your feet. Engage the core. Find a strong posture here, a strong, determined posture. Reflecting mentally on our purpose for the day, what brought us to our practice today, and what will get us through this practice. From here, let's take a moment to get a nice shoulder opener and neck opener. So blink open the eyes, start to clasp the hands behind you, open up the chest. Trying not to lean back or push the hips forward. Hips stay right over the ankles. Taking those clasped hands, bring them over to your right hip. So here we are, hands toward the right hip. They're clasped. You should be feeling length in the left shoulder. Take your eyes and gaze up at the ceiling as you start to lengthen your neck away from that left shoulder. So your right ear is coming down toward your right shoulder. And just stay here to breathe. I'll give you a nice mirror position. So you're looking like this if you were facing away from me. And then take your gaze from the ceiling down to the ground and notice a change in the stretch of the neck and the shoulder. Eyes go back up toward the ceiling and eyes come back down. One more time on this side. Lengthening through the side of the neck. Lots of these muscles like to get tense and overworked. Relax your jaw, maybe even move it around a little bit. And then lengthen your head back up toward the ceiling. Let's take the hands that are clasped, bring them to the other side. So we're bringing them to the other hip, the left hip. Lengthen, strong and tall, and then take your left ear towards your left shoulder, feeling that stretch in the neck and the shoulder, and then maybe looking up at the ceiling and changing the gaze down and up, looking down at the ground, noticing any sticky spots and just being aware of them, and maybe noticing if this side feels more tight than the other. Take a moment to check in with your hips. Are they starting to pop out to the side, or are they still underneath your shoulders? One more time, looking up and looking back down. Eyes come back to the center, gently lift the head, lengthen back up to standing. Release the arms beside you, finding a sun salutation A. So we will make our way into the front of our mat again. Reach the arms up toward the ceiling. Start to dive the spine forward. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Exhale, plant the hands, walk the feet back to your downward facing dog. So since we're doing a 30-minute class today, we will need to skip a lot of the flows that you would potentially do in a longer class, a longer format. But if you feel like adding a vinyasa at any point in your practice today, do feel free to do so. Stay here for one more deep breath. Reach the right leg up toward the ceiling and bend the knee to open up the hip, finding a three-legged dog. Take a second just to do a couple circles with that leg. Lengthen the leg behind you, pull the right knee forward, step through to the front of your mat, lower the hips down, eyes can look forward, And just take a second to stay here in this lunge. We can take blocks or books underneath our hands to elevate the floor toward us, and then start to lower the back knee down, finding a low lunge, Anjaneyasana. Inhale to reach the arms up toward the ceiling and lower the hips. Feel free to fold up a blanket or put a pillow under the knee, that left knee if it's starting to bother you. Dropping through the hips, finding length through the spine and opening up the chest. Hands clasped together into the front of the body. Either stay here or finding a twist over that front leg, that right leg. Another option to make that twist deeper is to take that left elbow onto the right knee, looking up at the ceiling, pushing the hips forward, finding a deeper twist. Wiggle the toes of the front foot without falling over, just so you know that your foot isn't overworking. Start to lengthen up toward the ceiling, reach the arms back up toward the ceiling, drop the hips down. Hands can float to the ground as you find a version of the splits. So we push the hips back, flex the toes up toward the ceiling, try to keep those hips in line with your body. So if your knee is bent like this, that's okay, as long as we're feeling the stretch in the hamstring in the back of the leg. And then take a moment just to push the toes down, finding pointing the toes, getting a stretch in the front of the calf or the shin, and then flex the foot to get into the calf muscle. So we're getting into the front of the leg and the back of the leg. 2 more times. Bending the knee, reaching the arms up one more time. Let's get a quick side bend. Grab your left or your right wrist with your left hand and reach over to the left side. Drop the hips a little bit deeper. One more breath here. Lengthen back up to the ceiling. Float the hands back down to frame the front foot. Tuck the back toes. Step that front leg back. Find your downward facing dog once again. Here's your opportunity if you want to take yourself through a vinyasa flow or stay in your down dog. So our vinyasa flow is finding a plank, lowering to chaturanga, maybe an up dog, and then back into a down dog. Pressing the pointer fingers into the floor. Take the left leg up. We're starting to go on to the other side. Extend that left leg, bend the knee. Find that nice hip flexor stretch. Try to keep your shoulders in line with the mat. Maybe get a couple circles of the knee and the hip to both directions. Exhale to pull the left knee toward the chest. Step the leg forward, finding that low lunge. Take a moment here. Try to engage the core. Think about keeping strength. Your legs, while they're stretching, are still pulling toward each other. So the muscles are still working. We're not just dumping into the pose. Lower the right knee down behind you, untuck the toes, find that low lunge. Anjaneyasana, drop the hips. If hands overhead is too much, we can keep the hands on the top of that front thigh. Thinking again about releasing through this hip flexor, opening through the chest and the lungs. Exhale to float the hands back down. I'm sorry, we need to go back into that nice lunge. We need to go into that twist. So hands come together, twist over the front leg. Hooking maybe that right elbow onto the right knee. Maybe looking behind you or over that left shoulder. With every exhale, twisting a little bit deeper. On your next inhale, lengthen through the spine, reach the arms up toward the ceiling. Now we float the hands back down toward the mat, finding the version of the splits, half splits. Pressing the hips back, flexing the toes up toward the ceiling, feeling that stretch the back of the thigh into the hamstring. Start to point the toe, let the toes press into the floor, and then flex the heel, the toes up toward the ceiling. Toes press back into the mat. Lift the toes up. Try to relax through your shoulders. The tension of the work through the hamstrings can really build in the upper body, so try to be aware of that. Last time, we flex the toes up toward the ceiling, plant the toe back down, reach the arms up one more time to find that side bend. Left hand grabs onto right wrist this time as we side bend, dropping the hips, lowering the left shoulder toward the left hip. Feeling length in the right rib cage. And lengthen the spine back up toward the ceiling. Hands frame the front foot. Lift the back knee and step forward into your forward fold. One more time. Quick ragdoll. Slowly roll up through the spine. Reach the arms up toward the ceiling. Quick little balance pose here. We're going to find tree pose. And then going into half pigeon. So hands can be at heart center, they can be out to the side, but we're trying to draw the right foot into the inside of the left leg. Opening up the right knee, lengthen through the spine, keep your hips facing forward, and maybe we start to find a balance challenge with the arms. Let your tree branches sway. Reach the arms up, bring them to the heart center. Challenge your balance here. Just one more breath. Only bringing it down without putting the foot down. Avoiding the knee joint. And then carefully bringing the right foot back to the ground. Planting and grounding through the right foot. Pressing into the right foot. Left foot comes into the inside of the right calf. Find your balance. Challenge your balance. Maybe even close your eyes. Oh my goodness, that's going to make it much harder. Arms reach up toward the ceiling. Hands come down to the chest. Really just play with it. Maybe notice if this side is stronger on balance or not quite as strong. Play with that standing balance pose. And gently lower the left toes to the mat. Pedal out the feet. Come back to the top of your mat, making our way back into downward facing dog. Reach the arms up toward the ceiling, dive forward. Plant the hands to the ground, bend the knees, walk the feet back into your downward facing dog. Take your right leg up toward the ceiling, pull the right knee into your chest, rotate your right foot toward your left wrist until you find your half pigeon. Now, if your wrists are starting to bother you or rotating into this position is just not happening today with your hips, then you can always find this modification on your back where the right leg crosses over the left, and it's a figure 4 stretch. Finding that stretch. Bringing the hands through the inside of the thighs. Wherever you are, whether you're in that pigeon here, or on your back, take a second to just close your eyes and let your body release into this pose. Your elbows can come to the mat. Your forehead, if that is open to you, can come to the mat. Slow down your breathing. With each breath, send your exhale, that oxygen, that air, that intention to the hips,
finding patience with your body as it experiences these poses. Every day is different. On your next inhale, slowly start to bring your hands to the mat or release the legs down in front of you if you're on your back. Take that left leg behind you, lift the hips up, find your down dog one more time. If you're on your back again, maybe you bend the knees, kind of windshield wiper the legs, and let's lift the left leg up, pull the left knee forward, find that half pigeon on the other side. Dropping the hips down, we can again lower the elbows to the mat. If we're choosing the supine version, we went from lengthening the legs out to bringing the left leg over the right knee, threading the hands through the legs. Find the pose that works best for you today. Continue to breathe into your hips. Keep awareness of your shoulders, your neck, and your jaw, keeping them relaxed and released. One more breath in this pigeon pose. On your next inhale, start to bring the hands back to the mat. Flip your feet out in front of you. If you're on your back, start to rock and roll up into a seated position. Flex your toes, reach the arms up and overhead as you find a forward fold over your legs. Feeling length all the way up your back. Reaching through your heels, your toes are pointing up toward the ceiling, and your hands can come onto the mat or onto the legs. Just let the spine arch up and over, pull the belly in. And with each exhale, start to kind of lean the body forward a little bit more. Lengthen the spine up, extend through the heels. Start to lower your body down, your back all the way down, tucking the tailbone, releasing the shoulders down, releasing the head down. Bend the knees, bring them underneath, bring your feet underneath your knees, and start to lift and bridge your hips up toward the ceiling. Once your hips go up, open up your chest. If you're looking for more of a back bend today, we can clasp the hands behind us and get even more of that chest opener, that upper back opener. Press the hips up, big squeeze through the glutes. If wheel is in your practice, you can find that here as well. Hands come underneath the shoulders. We press the hips up. One more breath wherever you are. If you're in that wheel, tuck your chin towards your chest. Hands release down. Bring your hands around your legs and slowly rock your hips from side to side. Rock your hips from side to side. Let your tailbone, your sacrum feel heavy on the floor. Bending your knees, grabbing behind your upper thigh. Perhaps you find a happy baby. You can flex your toes, you can grab onto your feet, and maybe continue to again rock your hips side to side, releasing your sacrum into the mat. On your next exhale, release your legs down, floating your feet out to the length of the mat or your towel or your blanket, finding your final Shavasana. So shoulders are relaxed underneath you, maybe dimming the lights around you to make it darker in your space. If that's not possible, putting a blanket or a towel over your eyes. Palms up toward the ceiling, chest opens, rib cage feels heavy, hips feel heavy on the mat, and eyes are closed. This is our final resting pose today. Our final chance to maintain staying in touch with our body in this yoga practice. Just like our focus of class today, really begin to let everything go here. Let your ankles fall open and out to the side. Let the tension go in your calf muscles. Let your knees release toward the mat. Let your hips sink into the ground. Let your breath rise and fall. Keeping your eyes closed, start to bring awareness to the sounds around you. Keep the awareness of your breath and notice how your body has changed or feels different after your 30-minute yoga practice today. Start to gently wiggle your fingers and your toes, staying in your supine position, eyes closed. Start to gently roll onto your right side, finding kind of a fetal position, letting your right arm support your head and neck, and stay here for a moment. Slowly, with your eyes still closed, start to make your way to a seated position, maybe cross-legged, maybe hero's pose with the feet behind you, releasing your hips onto your feet, tops of the feet on the floor. Find a comfortable pose where you can find length through the spine. Hands rest gently on the legs, and eyes remain closed. As we breathe here with our eyes closed, remind yourself of the focus, of the patience we are all working on to have for our bodies, for those around us, for our circumstances. And take a moment to reflect on this quote today. To accept what is, to let go of what was, and to have faith in what will be. Keeping your eyes closed, once again,
We will accept what is, let go of what was, and have faith in what will be. Reach the arms up toward the ceiling. Let's take one more inhale together. Exhale, let it all out. Start to gently blink open the eyes, bowing your head towards your hands. Namaste, everyone. I so appreciate, once again, you taking time in your day to practice with me and practice for yourself and for others as you hopefully bring the lightness from today's practice in your heart and your mind to others as you influence other people throughout the world today. And once again, thank you again for coming. My name is Staci. That was our 30-minute yoga flow. If you found that class was beneficial, please share it with other yoga practitioners or new participants to yoga so that they can benefit from that yoga practice.